Okay, great. So welcome everybody. My name's Amy Miller. If you don't already know me, I'm the Executive Director of Louisville Literary Arts. And this is our second night of the HoLLAdays. We are so excited that Carmichael's is joining us tonight with their rockstar bookseller, Sam Miller.
Thank you, Amy.
And there you are. I couldn't find you for a minute. Sam and I used to work together at Carmichael's a few years ago, and then many moons before that at Holly Cook Booksellers. So we have a rich and bookish history. Sam's
I've been knowing you a long time.
Yeah. We are going to talk about some of the highlights in the HoLLAday catalog. There it is. We both have it. I circled many, many, many things.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a good thing for my wallet, but it's a great thing.
Understood.
So I didn't know if you wanted to go in order of the way the catalog is organized, or if you had certain books that you want to talk about first.
That's fine. That's kind of the way I've arranged my stack, I think.
Okay. So
and as with in real life, I could do this all day. So if I'm going on too long, you need to say so.
Okay. I don't think that's possible.
I think people have lives, you know. They need to, yeah.
So,
but first of all, Louisville Literary Arts is a very worthy cause, and I'm appreciative that they asked me to participate. And I hope that if you're in a position to support local nonprofits or charities, that's one that you would consider.
Thank you, Sam. That's very nice. And along those lines, I'm going to put in the chat a few links, because this entire, well, I wouldn't say the entire weekend, let's say Thursday last night, we kicked off our fundraiser and it goes through the end of tomorrow. We have an auction with lots of books and bookish items that you may want to check out for holiday gifts or just for yourself. And we have a reading tomorrow night and a workshop tomorrow afternoon. So let me put all this in the chat for your reading pleasure, along with I think it's in there. Yes, at the bottom is Carmichael's link to their website, so that after we're done talking about books, you can go and buy them.
Yes, do it.
And one more thing I wanted to say, Sam, you guys have some really, you've been real creative about shopping around the pandemic. Can you tell people how they can shop if maybe they order online, but they want it for the holidays, or they want to pick something up in person?
Absolutely. First off, as of right now, you can just come into the store if you'd like, as long as you have a mask and you're wearing your mask properly, because we do insist on that. We did have a gentleman show up the other day in a children's party hat as a mask, which is not the right way to do it. We do have capacity issues. We're only allowing 10 people in the stores at a time. So you may be asked to wait outside if it's at a peak time. Therefore, I would encourage you to come at a non-peak time if you're planning on coming in. That way you can browse a little bit more safely, and also have a little bit more elbow room and perhaps not feel so rushed. At very peak times, we are trying to ask people who've been lingering if they could possibly wrap it up so other people can come in. So please bear that in mind. We also are offering curbside pickup. If you want to call us on the phone and pay for it over the phone, you can pick it up outside any one of our 3 stores. We're happy to do that for you. And at least until December 15th, we are offering delivery in city limits to certain zip codes for free. Certain other more far-flung zip codes, we do ask for a $25 minimum for those. And we do ship things. We charge $5 for shipping, up to $50, after which it's free. So there's lots of options, but the important date to remember, please, is December 15th, because after December 15th, because we do not want to promise anything that we're not capable of doing, we are going to cut off the shipping and deliveries for orders placed after that time. Those orders will have to be picked up at the store or curbside at the store. So lots of options for people.
That's great. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Shall we dive in?
Yes, let's.
Great.
First of all, the beginning of the catalog is devoted to the staff's picks for their book of the year. Keep in mind, we were asked for a book of the year in October, which stinks because I'm always hopeful that there's still more good books to come. It also stinks because it's 2020, obviously, and we didn't get as many advance copies as we do in normal years because publishers weren't in the office to send them to us. So if you're someone like me, who's obviously technologically challenged because I'm doing this on a backward-facing Amazon Kindle that I can't even see myself on, you want the physical book. And so there's lots of books that are coming in now that I feel like I should have already read, but I haven't because those copies weren't made available to us. But with that in mind, the book I picked was Metropolitan Stories by Christine Colson. It is a collection of short stories written by a woman. This is her debut book, and she worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art for 25 years. And they're interlinked stories about all different characters that populate the museum, from the art to the director to the man who does the bags in the gift shop. And they are delightful. And I can't recommend this book highly enough. And I picked it. There were several books in my contention, but I picked it because I feel like it didn't get the love that it deserves, especially as a debut. And so I wanted to throw my tiny bit of weight behind it.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's really great for people who love museums or art, or just like stories where you get to peek behind the curtain to see a world that you don't normally get to see.
Yeah. Are there any highlights that you can tease?
Well, I don't want to give anything away, but I will also say, to make it my recommendation even stronger, that when I was reading this, getting into the really good parts of it, I was at the doctor's office and really nervous about having a really icky medical procedure done. And I completely forgot about that and was just totally into the story, so much so that I got grumpy when they called my name. So I don't know how I can recommend it any more strongly than that.
I definitely want to read that one. That sounds
It's a good one.
So any other staff picks that you wanted to highlight?
Well, another one I read, because of course it's 2020, our bookseller Devin, it was his book of the year, was Ibram Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning, which is, if I don't have it to show you, but it's about yay big. And it's basically a history of racism, starting from way back to the present. And it's something I read with a highlighter and a pencil because I was making copious notes as I was reading it. It's not light reading, it's not happy reading, but it's very necessary reading. And the scope of it and the through line he's able to make in American history is really impressive. And even if you feel like you know it well, I believe there were things in that book that will surprise you, or holes in your education that you didn't even know were there. So that's another reading highlight for me for sure.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that one. Do you want to move along to fiction?
Sure. The fiction that I had, there's lots of good fiction, of course, and many of it's on the bestseller list because we try to choose things that are trending or happening at the end of the year. But I did want to bring up, also from the Kentucky point of view, is that Bobby Ann Mason has a new book called Dear Anne. And she has said that it's probably going to be her last book. So if you're a fan of hers, this is going to be the swan song. At least that's what she's saying now. But it's a novel that's based on letters that her mother wrote her when she was in college. And it's lovely. And it would make a lovely gift, especially for moms and daughters.
How long has it been again since she put a book out?
It's been a few good years.
Yeah, I can tell you the last time.
There was that compilation that came out 2 or 3 years ago, but I don't know that I think it was actually, that one was even edited by someone else. So I think it's been a good long time.
Yeah, that's a great idea for a present.
Especially for that extra Kentucky touch.
Exactly. So what else is on your fiction list?
Well, it's one I neglected to grab, but from mysteries, an author I really enjoy is Tana French. And she has a new book out called The Searcher, which is very interesting. If you're familiar with her, you know she typically writes in her Dublin Murder Squad, which is very interestingly done because you don't necessarily have to read them in chronological order because she focuses on a different detective protagonist every time. And then other detectives who've been in other books will be the supporting characters in that book. So they all build on each other, but you don't necessarily have to read them in order. But this new one is a standalone, and apparently she's been watching and reading a lot of Westerns because she's taking the Western tropes, stranger in town, one man standing against evil, and putting them into what's essentially grit lit set in rural Ireland. And when I say rural Ireland, I mean the back end of nowhere Ireland. And as always, her dialogue is fantastic. It will make you want to go to Ireland, even if you don't think you want to go to Ireland, just because the language is so amazing, which is not usually something we talk about when we're talking about mysteries.
That sounds great. I love anything set in Ireland. I find particularly interesting. I can't tell you why. I used to tell my husband I was Black Irish, and he yelled at me.
That's funny. Well, and she has so much cool Irish vernacular in this book that I really want to make it my own and work it into my vocabulary. But as a non-Irish person living in Louisville, Kentucky, I'm not really sure that would work so well.
Okay.
I think you should try.
Well, that's true. But I think maybe you have to nail the accent too. And I can't be trusted to do that.
Yeah.
Time to go get the messages.
Okay, let me repost the link for The Searcher. Oops, send it directly to you, Irv, but I meant to send it to everybody. So here we go again. There it is. Okay. So
Well, it came through that time.
Great, thank you. So Sam, let's talk
Amy.
about some of the books that you actually have with you.
Yes, of course. As far as nonfiction, one I read and enjoyed because I like all things dark is We Keep the Dead Close by Becky Cooper,
Would
which
you mind
is
putting that, like in front of your face because we can't see the. There it is.
Sorry. But it's true crime, but because the crime for much of the book at least is unsolved and a cold case, the focus is really on the victim and on how her life mattered and what her life was like and what was lost when she was lost, which is true crime that I really enjoy and appreciate, that really feels like has some gravitas and also is respectful to the fact that we're talking about someone who died. But she essentially, it's kind of similar to I'll Be Gone in the Dark, whereas a normal person who's not a police officer or a private detective gets fascinated with murder, so much so that they spend all their free time trying to figure out what happened. And it's just fascinating. It's about a co-ed that was killed at Harvard back in the 60s. And it's terrific. Especially if you love any kind of true crime, you definitely need to check it out.
Great. And I put the link to that book, We Keep the Dead Close. And you said Becky Cooper?
Yes.
Put that in the chat for everybody. So
She's also a debut author.
Oh, really? That's great.
And if nonfiction, like narrative nonfiction is your bag, or you need a gift for maybe, I hate to stereotype, but dad or grandpa, H.W. Brands has a new book called The Zealot and the Emancipator. It's about, it's a comparison about John Brown and Abraham Lincoln and how their lives intersected and how their fights were both similar and dissimilar. And I've not read this one, I've read his other books, and much like your Eric Larson's, they read like movies and go down really easily. So that'd also be a good recommendation for maybe someone who enjoys a book or two a year. I don't know what that's like, but I hear that there are people like that.
Would you mind showing us the cover again and just put it in front of your face a little bit? There it is. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you for the technical direction.
For those of you just joining us, Sam is at a disadvantage because she can't see herself.
What Sam needs to do when she holds it up in front of her face is to speak also, because the last 2 times she's held something in front of her face, you stayed on my screen because you were the speaker.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. Thank you, Irv.
Okay, thanks for the tip.
And you're doing a great job of staying in the middle of the screen.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to be still. It's not my nature, but I'm trying. Another beautiful nonfiction book. This one might be the prettiest one in the catalog. It's called The Lost Spells. And it has 2 writers, one who's a scientist and one who is an artist. They had a book a few years ago. You may remember, if you like that kind of gifty book kind of thing, it was called The Lost Words, and it was huge, like surfboard size. This one is its tiny, tiny little sister, but it has the most beautiful watercolor drawings and paintings, and it's full of poetry and spells and chants. It's just like a magical little thing, and it would be lovely to carry it on a walk, for example, or maybe read it under a tree on a day like today when it's lovely. It would make a great gift.
That's beautiful.
It is a lovely, my Kindle and nor any screen could not do this one justice. It's one you definitely need to see in person. And it has this super fancy ribbon bookmark too, which always makes it classy.
Eric says he's in love with that book.
Me too, same.
I ordered it from Carmichael's like a month ago, and I'm just in love with it. I sit with it and look at the watercolors. It's so great.
Same. I love the fox one. The fox one is my favorite, but they're all beautiful.
Mhm.
Another good one for this year. Obviously, 2020 stinks. We're all agreeing on that. But also, 2020 is a big anniversary. It's the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And we have a local book about that, about some suffragists right here in Kentucky who helped fight so that I and other women like myself could vote. It's called A Simple Justice, Kentucky Women Fight for the Vote. And it's I've read lots of suffragist history lately, especially, but this one is cool because it's places you know, names you recognize. And even if you didn't know why you know that name, you're like, oh, well, there's like 500 things named after that person. Now I understand why. It'd be excellent gift for any of like feminist or history buff in your family.
That's great. I was really curious about that book. And I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that I'm putting all of the links to these books along with their titles in the chat. So you can open the chat and go check out those books by clicking the link. And it'll take you directly to that page in Carmichael's website. Okay. What else do you have for us? You have some, are we through with fiction?
Well, I've got one more nonfiction one for you. I just wanted to address because one of the best, we were closed for 3 months this year. One of our best selling titles then, very interestingly to me, was actually a backlist title. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass, which many of you may have read in paperback before. It's lovely, beautiful, poetic nature writing that it also calls on like native themes. It's been like a backlist title. We've carried it for years. We always sell, it steadily. We always have it in stock. But this year they gave it a fancy new spiffy facelift with this lovely gift edition. Again, with the ribbon bookmark, totally classy. Again, it would make a beautiful gift for someone who loves nature or the outdoors or is interested in pastoral matters or native matters. It's lovely. And there aren't very many of these left. So if this is something that catches your eye in this gift edition, best jump on it because there are not very many. And there probably won't be very many more till after Christmas because it obviously takes a lot longer to make the gift books than it does your average book.
So we have a question.
Yes.
That you described it as a backlist title. could you explain what that means?
Oh, yes. I love to explain jargon. We have frontlist titles or new books, which come out all the time, but then there are those classic books in every section of the store, not just talking about classic literature, that you expect a good bookstore to have. Something like, golly, now I'm going to scramble for some other examples, but just, good steady sellers. They don't ever make it to the bestseller list maybe, but they sell steadily. Let's try that again. And so you always have them on your shelves and you always reorder them when you sell out. And that's what a backlist title is.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay. So what are we going to look at next?
Another local thing. We talked a little bit about Bobby and Mason, but another local one, our friends at the Louisville Story Program, who we love because they're always calling our attention to stories right here in our community that we may not know about or that may have otherwise gone unreported. And they're always growing new writers, which as a bookstore, we're totally about that. And your organization, obviously, Amy, is totally about that. So they put out their new book this year, which is called The Fights We Have Fought Brought Us Here. And it's some young writers who are whose alma mater, they share the alma mater with Muhammad Ali. And they wrote about their fights with him as kind of the inspiration behind the theme of the book. And as always with their books, the writing is amazing and extremely impressive that such young people have such wisdom and such, even as young people, a lot of experience to call upon.
So can you mention what the title is one more time?
It's called The Fights We Have Fought Brought Us Here.
Thank you. I'm trying to update and talk at the same time.
That's a great title.
You're so talented, Amy.
Yeah.
Yes, they do good work at the Louisville Story Program.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Nothing makes people feel more important than having their story heard. So
Absolutely. And their books are always beautiful too.
yes, agreed. They do great work. It's not just like some kind of, sometimes local stuff can have a kind of slap together, I made it in my basement feel, but these totally not.
Yep, I agree. And all purchases do support the work that they do. So
Absolutely. And thank you for reminding me of that, Amy. You can give a good gift and do some good too.
that's right. All right. So are we at a point when we can talk about my favorite books, children's books?
Oh, I think we can.
Awesome.
So a couple of picture books I grabbed. I kind of have an author crush on Oliver Jeffers, both because he is adorable and has a lovely accent, and he writes and illustrates beautiful books. He has a new one for the holidays. It's called What We'll Build. And it's the story of a father and daughter, and it's talking about what they're building. And that ranges from everything from the literal things that they're building to the relationship that we're building. And it has, as with all of his books, beautiful, beautiful illustrations. And I'm hoping I'm holding it in a way that you can appreciate it. It has a very sweet message, especially I think for a sweet message for troubled times, for sure.
Nice. I love his books. He has also a really kind of coy sense of humor too.
Yes, he does. I got to have an author dinner with him once, and he and I bonded about talking about how orcas are the jerks of the sea. I don't know why we got on that subject matter, but he is fortunately as delightful in person as he is in his books.
I love hearing that.
And another one that I want to talk about is actually a local author. Her name is Olivia Cole, and her book is called A Time to Roar. And it's about a bear, but it's really about standing up for yourself and when you should speak up and when you shouldn't speak up, which I think it works as a story and also as a cleverly disguised lesson. I don't want to make it sound like medicine, but there's a story, there's a moral to the story, which I really appreciate.
She's multi-talented. I didn't know that she wrote picture books too.
Yes, she is indeed.
She's a sci-fi and fantasy young adult writer, and we've had her read for us before. She's delightful.
She's one of our regulars and one of a steadfast online customer for sure.
That's great. I can't wait to check that one out.
And also in picture books, we have a specific new holiday one called The Ninth Night of Hanukkah, since it is actually Hanukkah. And it's an interesting premise where we have an extra night, the ninth night, in which we celebrate new friends and new neighbors. So there's a sweet story and a lovely extra long menorah just for that occasion.
I'm trying to find the link. Hanukkah can be spelled so many ways.
I know.
Do you know why?
No, tell us.
It's because it's all phonetic.
Oh.
It's transliterated. So, and I know I spelled it a different way than the book spells it, but that link should be good. How do they spell it?
They have the double K
No,
and the H instead of CH.
Okay. Yeah. So I spell it with a CH at the beginning because I like to go.
Of course, because like you do. Yeah, of course.
Who doesn't?
Well, it makes me laugh too, because I'm also the card buyer, and I have a Hanukkah card that I bought that I might still have some copies of that talk about, how you can spell Hanukkah anyway. Hanukkah, Chadim Tanning, and it's all correct.
Oh, I like that one.
There's also speaking of new holiday, the inimitable Sandra Boynton has a new one called Christmas Parade. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else you need to say other than new Boynton. I think it probably sells itself.
I didn't know she was still making books.
Yes, she is. This is actually her second book this year. So I think she's been using her quarantine well.
For all those parents out there, you probably have 5 of her books in your closet somewhere on your shelves. We liked the Going to Bed book.
I feel like that's perhaps her perennial bestseller for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other Christmas books on your list, whether they're children's or adult?
I didn't grab any other ones because there was only so much that would fit on the table, but there's one in the catalog called the Atlas of Christmas, which is a little bitty tiny gift book that just is full of weird, freaky facts about how did it start? How did they celebrate all over the world? Why do we do this at Christmas? Why do we do that at Christmas? So that might be kind of a fun family gift. It'd be an excellent thing to put in your bathroom around the holidays. In years we're able to host visitors, perhaps.
Gotta love those bathroom books.
Yes. And moving into like early chapter books, Amy, which I know you also love. This is a fun one called Monster and Boy, which is about, surprise, a monster and a boy. And it's about the monster that lives under your bed specifically, and how when the boy looks under the bed and startles the monster swallows the boy, and what happens from there. But it's delightful. It's super sweet, and it has still has lots of fun illustrations for young readers who are just pulling away from total illustrations and moving towards actual chapters with lots and lots of text.
I like the subversiveness of that one.
Oh, yeah, it's plenty. And speaking of subversive, thank you for the segue. My other one I want to talk about has pictures by one of my favorites, John Klassen, who I love pretty much everything he does. And it's by Amy Timberlake, and it's called Skunk and Badger. And it is kind of like Frog and Toad for the 21st century. if one of them was a surprise visitor and there were an awful lot of funny chickens. I mean, funny chickens. That should sell it right there.
Absolutely. And John Klassen, I got to listen to him this summer at a conference, and he is hysterical, as you can imagine. Now, did he do the illustrations?
He did.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find one. And this is actually on it's almost middle grade. There's so many chapters in this one. So it would be for your advanced readers or someone who's almost to middle grade. This is them saying breakfast is the nicest meal. But it's very subversive. Like I said, funny chickens. I can't emphasize the funny chickens enough. It's a delight. I gave both of those to a young friend of mine, and I had to read them first before I wrapped them, and I was delighted by both.
That's great.
And also, because I personally, I don't know how anyone else feels, can't get enough Little Women in my life, there's a new graphic novel loosely based on Little Women called Jo. And for young readers who love graphic novels, yes, 100% yes on this one. And hopefully for parents who are sometimes, let's be real, parents have a little bit of angst about, is a graphic novel really a book? Well, it is. And I'm happy when kids are excited about reading. I want them to be happy about reading. And graphic novels can sometimes be a bridge to other kind of reading. So please don't hate on graphic novels. We love graphic novels, especially for reluctant readers. I've seen it many, many times in my book selling career. You parents out there who might be able to attest to the same. Graphic novels are real books.
Absolutely. So I'm having trouble finding a link for that one. Does it have a subtitle?
It's just called Jo, an adaptation of Little Women, sort of.
Okay, I'll keep looking for that and post it. You go on to the next book.
I think it's on. Yeah, I can't figure out which page it's on, but it's in there and it's great. I know that Louisville Literary Arts has lots of poetry programming because I've taken some of the poetry programming and enjoyed it, the poetry programming. So we've had a lot of poetry in our catalog this year, more than ever. We actually kind of shook up the catalog more than we normally do. Normally it's in black and white. Normally we have like vintage copy-free illustrations, but we had the lovely sampler made on the cover by an employee's mother and sort of took that as our cue to make the illustrations color for the first time and to have more things in it and less detail. In previous catalogs, it almost been like tiny little mini essays, but we knew many people would be shopping from a distance. So we thought more titles would be better. So we kind of flipped up the way we did the catalog. So we're including more of everything, including more poetry. And two of my favorites that are in the catalog, Ross Gay's Beholding, which is a book-long poem about one play that Julius Erving, AKA Dr. J, did in an NBA final game. So poetry and basketball. And also I loved Joy Priest's Horsepower. And she grew up in Louisville and has a strong connection to the area, and also has a rich Instagram if you like to do those sorts of things.
Yeah, Joy will be joining us in January for Inky. So
I saw that. And we were disappointed not to have, we have this beautiful event space that we remodeled in February. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to have her because we wanted to have her for an event, and you know, need I say more?
Yeah, she is a force.
Yes, it was probably my favorite poetry book of the year, hands down. And we do, there's lots of other poetry in the catalog. We've got Margaret Atwood, we've got Barbara Kingsolver, we've got Billy Collins. So there's lots to choose from.
Yeah, I see that.
And
Make-
another that has some poetry and some other type things, which is local, is the Louisville Anthology. And I'm sure, Amy, you know some of the people in here. And we were super stoked at Carmichael's because the lead poem in the anthology is actually written by one of our employees, Emma, who works at the Bardstown Road Store.
And it's a beautiful poem.
It is. I wish she were here to read it to you.
Oh, that would have been a great thing. Yeah, we'll just have to pull her in for another event.
I think you should. I wanted to get her to read it for the social media, but so far that has not happened.
So that book was edited by Erin Keene, who is our founder and sits on our advisory board. So there are a lot of HoLLAday connections with that book.
I knew there were. And it really came together nicely. I was very, very impressed with it.
It's a great collection. I am going to mute myself for a minute while my dogs bark at something like a squirrel or something outside. So you go on.
Well, one thing we haven't gotten to yet was cookbooks, and there are multiple cookbooks available in the catalog this year. One of the ones that I liked the look of, I have not yet made anything from it yet, is called Dessert Person, because I am a dessert person. It looks like this, super yummy. And they're also very approachable recipes. None of them are multi-pagers. So for someone who is up for a challenge, but not a 4-page challenge, I think it would be a great book. It also looks great. It's one of those cookbooks that also kind of looks like a coffee table book. So I think it would make a great gift for people in your life who like dessert, like me.
Does anyone else like looking at cookbooks just to look at the pictures?
Sometimes it's just very relaxing.
It's very relaxing. Ah, Brittany is here. That looks like a great book for that, for just mental peace.
Right, and there's no calories that way. Just looking doesn't cost you anything.
Yes.
Also, another nice little gift, if you just need a little something for someone who's a foodie, or maybe it would look great with your restaurant gift card that you're going to give them, is this collection by Julia Child called People Who Love to Eat Are Always the Best People. And it just has some of her very funny wit and some lovely little illustrations. So again, a nice little stocking stuffer, a nice little thing to find under the tree or maybe on the kitchen table.
She's charming, or was charming.
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to get a link for that one.
Did you figure out what the dogs were barking at?
Oh, who knows?
The wind?
Who knows? There we go.
I would also say another book that we're selling a lot of because of the bourbon part of the story, and it was also featured on CBS Sunday Morning a month or so ago, is called Pappy Land. It's both about the bourbon, which is of course Pappy Van Winkle, super shishi bourbon, but it's also about the family that made it and how that all came to be and how that legacy lives on today. So it's kind of the two different kinds of stories in one book.
And
excellent for that person who's into bourbon.
yes, and didn't James Carville talk about Pappy? Like during
Yes.
the election, he was like drinking his very like $400 snifter.
Like he does.
or whatever. Sorry, bourbon people. I do not drink bourbon, so I don't know what the glass is called. But
Like a highball?
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy Land looks really interesting.
No, it's a really pretty book. And I think it would appeal to more than just like the person who stands out in front of Liquor Barn at 6 a.m. waiting for the latest release of bourbon.
I didn't know that existed.
They do. Wow. They're very spirited in their support of their favorite spirit.
That's great. Okay. Do you have any other cookbooks or beverage books on your list?
I didn't bring anything else back. I did
Okay.
bring a couple music things though, because there's some really cool music stuff in the catalog this year.
Okay.
Too much for me to talk about all of them, but the one book in the catalog that I would want to get, because I normally, unlike most booksellers, I don't need to own the book. I want to read the book, but then I want to give it away. I live in a really small space. I don't really want to keep books most of the time. But my favorite biographies of all time were written by, Peter Grilnick, the music writer. And he has a new book called Looking to Get Lost, Adventures in Music and Writing. And it features some of his long form interviews with people like Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton and Bob Wills, and just super great. He's a fabulous music writer. He makes it so vivid and really gets at the heart of what the musicians are about in a really terrific, vivid way. So I would definitely, this would be the book I would want to own from the catalog, because I've enjoyed his other books so much.
He's been around for a long time.
He has all the good stories for sure. And then the other thing, we have actually not one, but two Dolly Parton books in the catalog, which seems appropriate given that, it's Dolly, one, and it's 2020, and she is helping fund the vaccine that's going to get us all out of this COVID jail. But the one book that we have that's the super large coffee table one is called Dolly Parton's Songteller. Sorry, I keep popping away, but only so many books would fit on the table. But it's so huge and beautiful. And it has pages and pages of her lyrics, and with long in-depth explanations about how she came to write them. And also lots and lots of beautiful photographs from the time in which they were written. It's a lovely, lovely book for any music fan or, any human being who loves Dolly.
I just put Dolly because I couldn't get the whole thing in there, but you know what I'm talking about.
Come on, it's Dolly.
Dolly. Exactly. Who doesn't love Dolly? And she's been doing story time for children on I guess she has her own website, Bedtime with Dolly, something like that. She's just the sweetest and most genuine person.
And did you read the news this week on the movie that she's filming, or the movie that's airing where she's a Christmas angel of some sort? I haven't seen the movie yet, but apparently she literally saved the child actor's life. Like something heavy was going to fall on them and she saved him. So it's like, geez, what can't she do?
She is an angel. So
I heart Miss Dolly.
I'm curious if you brought any of the humor books up with you.
I didn't, but we've got some for sure. We've got the new Lindy West. We've got David Sedaris has a new one. It's kind of like his greatest hits, some of his favorites that he handpicked. It's called The Best of Me. And we actually had him in the store just a few weeks ago because he was visiting family. And he said he was very pleased with the way it turned out. And he had a really good time picking what got to be in the greatest hits.
Oh, fun. I'm curious what made it.
I'm not going to spoil it for you. You have to find out yourself.
I know, but I have most of his books, so.
Right. And I feel like, for the completist, it would be a great gift. Obviously, if you have everything David Sedaris, you're going to want it, but also be a really good primer for somebody who's just getting to know him.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to link that one because everybody should have some David Sedaris in their life. This is the David Sedaris book.
Agreed.
Have you read the new Ali Brosh book?
I have not. I've just breezed through it briefly.
That is on my list.
It weighs a ton.
Good. It's long.
Inside information, people, that you could get only from a bookseller. It weighs a ton.
Awesome. Carrie said she read it. Did you like it, Carrie?
I did, but not as much as the first one.
Well, sophomore effort.
Yeah. Well, and I read them back to back, so I could have just been like kind of worn out,
Maybe you needed a palate cleanser.
I think so, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Solutions and Other Problems, I should say, is Ali Brosh's new book. So I don't know what else you brought up with you, but I am very curious if you have some gift items or puzzles.
I just grabbed the two.
Okay.
I didn't grab the puzzle because I wasn't sure we got it in stock, but we got it back today. We carry more puzzles now than we ever have. We've always carried some jigsaw puzzles, but during the height of the pandemic, when we were closed, everybody was, of course, nuts for puzzles. They wanted puzzles all the time. So we had to establish relationships with all new vendors who we'd never had relationships before. One of which is a puzzle company in Tennessee called True South. And for people, either yourself or on your list, who look for that made in the USA label, that's a great recommendation because they're great puzzles, but they're also made in the USA. But they tend to do like national parks or like some themed ones. Like they had a fun Halloween one with a map with classic Halloween locations. They have a map with classic literary locations that we have, but they also have state puzzles, and we have a cool 500-piece Kentucky state puzzle, which would make a great gift. And like I said, we had been out of it when we just got back more in stock. So we're good to go on that one. I didn't bring it back, but True South puzzles are great, and we're glad to have them in the store. However, speaking of sidelines, I did bring a couple things, one of which is a pencil holder shaped like a mailbox, because you need a first-class gift, and we love the post office. They are champs in our book. So it's very well made, solid, would make a great little stocking stuffer.
How much is it?
Oh, golly, you're going to ask me that, and now I have to look it up in the catalog because I don't know off the top of my head.
No, don't you worry about it.
And also, the other thing I brought up, because I thought it was funny, and I know I've talked about this with some of you before, we have Bowie Bingo.
Yes.
Ground control to major bingo. I mean, I don't know what else you do to sell that besides Bowie
Can you
Bingo.
just put one of those aside for me right now? Just put my name.
Do it. Done. Check.
Hope my husband's not listening.
But we do have, like I was saying earlier, in expanding the catalog, we do have more sideliney type stuff featured than we ever have before, just because we knew that people will be shopping remotely, and we wanted them to have a chance to have a little bit of that real store experience too.
And you guys also have t-shirts and socks and all kinds of candles.
So many socks.
So I definitely think that books are the focus for Carmichael's, but please, if you are looking for a gift item, Carmichael's is a great place to find so many different
Thank you. Well, we have lots. We just re-upped on our swag too. So if you want a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or a hoodie, now's a good time because we just got a new shipment in with some new colors and stuff. Those also make great gifts, especially for people who might live away now, but they have fond memories of Louisville and Carmichael's.
Right. So anything else on your stack next to you? Have we gone through everything?
I think we've gone through everything.
Wow.
I felt like I was bringing up so much, but
no, you did. You did. I thought we could just use the remaining time to see if anybody had questions for you.
Sure.
Specific books, or if they're looking for something for a particular person on their gift list. So you can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type it in the chat and we can take a look at it there.
I have a question for Sam.
Yes.
So my mom, after listening to your episode, my mom wants to get the audiobook, the Bob, what is it? The Catherine Applegate book.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I would need to get her a Libro FM gift card.
Yes, if she wants to do it that way. I mean, we don't have a large audiobook section, meaning audiobooks on CD these days, but some are still made, and we could look into ordering it if she's at that. I'm not sure, at what technology she is, but if she wanted to get a subscription to Libro FM, yes, when she signs up or when you sign her up, if you're doing a gift membership, then there's a space where you can choose your local bookstore, and then we get a portion of the proceeds that are bought from those customers.
Okay, so I can just do that online.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll figure out the whole teaching my mom how to. I don't expect
that I
Carmichael
can't
to
help you
figure
with,
that
Carrie.
out,
I'm
although
sorry.
I would be willing to pay extra for that service.
I have similar issues with my folks, so I feel that. And I don't know who does the audiobook, but I'm hoping it's someone terrific, because Bob calls out for somebody terrific.
I think it's Danny DeVito.
Well, he played him in the movie, so that's good. That makes me feel good.
I'm excited to read that one because Ivan was so good.
Yes, and it is wonderful. And I'm so glad that Bob got his own, like he gets to be the star of the story.
Catherine Applegate she visited my son's school when, I guess this is at least 10 years ago, and she was the most generous, kindest woman. She sold a lot of books, signed them all, talked to every single student. I can't say enough nice things about her.
Yeah, I got to go to a dinner with her, and she's a real gem for sure. And so nice. It's always a pleasure when the authors whose books you enjoy are nice.
Right. Genuine.
Yes.
Other questions for Sam? Anyone shopping for books or someone on your list?
Sam, this is not a question about shopping for books specifically, but what is a bestseller at Carmichael's? In other words, how many books do you all sell? If a book sells 100 books through Carmichael's, is that considered a really good deal, or do you need?
Absolutely, that would be great sales for us. If you're talking about strictly when you're walking into the store, what is on the bestseller display and what gets discounted, because we do discount the hardcover bestsellers for 20% off. We use the New York Times list, and we also use the indie bookstore, indie bound list. So we kind of get a cross section of both. But for us personally, 100 copies would be a terrific return on a book for sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I have a question. My internet's going in and out, so I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I'm gonna try.
I hear you fine.
Anyway. So we were talking about graphic novels, and I have a friend who's an adult friend who loves graphic novels. What's like your favorite graphic novel, or one that you would recommend to someone who is, not middle grades or younger, but someone who's an adult who just enjoys reading that kind of book?
Oh, golly. That's so not my area of expertise. We have a couple of booksellers who is that their area of expertise. My personal favorites are old ones. Like I was a huge Love and Rockets fan back in the day. So anything the brothers Hernandez do, I love. And they're still writing now, but their heyday was definitely back in the late 80s, early 90s. I also love 30 Days of Night, again, because I love dark stuff. And I lived in Alaska for a while. So the premise of vampires having a convention in Alaska where it's dark all the time really tickled me. So I really like that. There's a newer one that's a romance-ish called Blankets, which we always sell well and is well thought of for sure. But honestly, that's not my sweet spot. We do have several employees here who live and breathe graphic novels who would be much better recommenders, but that's just what I like off the top of my head.
That's great though, thanks. Like giving me somewhere to go from.
And there's always, I don't know, I'm glad you asked about that, because I do feel they're not my sweet spot necessarily, but I do feel strongly about them. And I enjoy that the ones that I love, how each part, like you couldn't have one without the other. Like the writing can be good, but the art can be bad, or vice versa, and it doesn't work. But when they both work together, it's just something wonderful happens. It's really great.
We have a question from Marissa. she's looking for suggestions for sci-fi with heavy world building.
Ooh, well, I feel like but I feel like she's probably the N.K. Jesmond books have that for sure, but I feel like Marissa's probably so well read, she's already there. But also the golly, Rebecca Roanhorse. We have one of her newest one in our HoLLAday catalog, and I feel like it's going to be the start of a series, and it is based on like the world building is taken from like Mayan mythology. So, and she's the author herself is Native American. So I feel like that could be something to fit that bill for sure. But again, you know, that's one of my weak subjects is sci-fi, but we have some strong people here who could probably give some good recommendations, especially the sci-fi folks love their series. So that's usually the good thing. Once you get in with one, then you know there's more richness to come.
She said, thank you. I know you can't see us, so I just want to convey that to you, Sam.
I appreciate that.
Well, we're just about out of time. Does anyone have any last minute questions? I think we might have answered them all. I think everybody has their shopping list completely ready to go.
Well, I will say too, we love to hear from you, whether it's by phone. You can write it in the comment field if you're ordering online, or you can just come in the store if you feel comfortable doing that. We're always happy to see you, and making recommendations is one of the best parts about being a bookseller. When I joke and say I could do this all day, I'm only half joking. I really could do it all day. Those are the very best kind of conversations we get to have. So if you think of things later, you know, don't hesitate to reach out.
That's great. Thank you so much for being with us, Sam, and helping us.
Oh, it's fun. Thank you, Amy. And thank you for bearing with my, you know, JV technology.
No, you did great. I'm just putting up the links to our HoLLAday celebration. The first link is a general one. The second is to our auction. We've got lots of items to bid on there. And then we have tickets which are free for our reading tomorrow night. You can also give a donation instead of just picking up a free ticket if you like. It's really your call, but we have a great lineup. We've got Rihanna Nicole, who will be doing spoken word. We've got Ellen Burkett Morris. We've got Ron Whitehead. We've got Irv Klein, who's with us tonight. All Louisville debut of our review of writers tomorrow night. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you can join us. And thanks for coming tonight. We will have
Thank you, everybody.
We'll have a recording of this up on our YouTube page, which I have a link to on social media. And you can share it with your friends. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night and happy HoLLAday.
Happy HoLLAday.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Amy.
Sam.
Thanks.
Sam.
Yes.
Thank you. That was great.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Thanks for doing this, you two. It was really nice. I love it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It's just like everybody was like listening in on our conversation behind the counter.
Exactly. When you forget there's actually customers in the store.
That was my favorite moment. Yeah.
Well, that works for good and for evil, unfortunately, but yes. Well, I hope the rest of the fundraiser is a success